to also present their written submissions, the deadline being 7 p.m., so just about an hour ago. So that is what was supposed to happen today. But also, as you mentioned there, it was a day for if you have an application, you want to be enjoined in the suit, you could do so. But let's first begin with one of what they call here interlocutory applications that was made by the National Super Alliance, Raila Odinga, who's named as a petitioner in this particular petition. So Raila Odinga in the petition, in this interlocutory application, is seeking to be allowed to be able to scrutinize all of the information and documents numbering 54,000. Remember those copies that were submitted here by the IEBC. So NASA wants to be able to scrutinize that. They also want to audit the service as well as the logs. So those are some of the interlocutory applications that were made by the petitioner. But there are other 7 applications, Joe, that were made today. 4 of them for people who want to be enjoined as interested parties. We have been reporting about 2 of them. That is Michael Wainaina, who is an independent candidate. He is seeking to be enjoined in the suit, and he is supporting the argument of the respondents, in essence arguing that the 2017 8th of August general election was free, fair, credible, transparent, verifiable as well. Then there's Uhuru Kenyatta of the Third Way Alliance, also a presidential candidate in the just concluded election. He is arguing, and his case is supporting that application, rather, is supporting the case of the petitioner. Then there are 2 more applications, Joe. Some Kenyans may remember in the 2013 petition, there was a voter called Isaac Alu, who had also at the time sought to be enjoined as an interested party. He was disallowed at the time. He's tried again this time around. So we'll wait to see what the judges decide on his matter. Then there's Barasa Wafula, who's also a voter from Bungoma. He's also seeking to be enjoined in this particular petition. So remember, the judges, and rather the parties, the petitioners and respondents can respond to these applications by midday tomorrow to either say they support whoever wants to be enjoined, or they do not support the same. And then the 3 other applications, Joe, are for those who want to be amicus curiae, or friend of the court, and that is in essence people wanting to be part of this particular petition, not necessarily as a party, not also solicited by any of the parties, but the role of a friend of the court, Joe, is to come in and help the court with information that has bearing on the case before them. So we have 3 of them. Joe, the Attorney General Githu Muigai is seeking to be enjoined as an amicus curiae. Remember, in 2013 he was successful, so we'll see this time around whether he will be as well. The Law Society of Kenya, we understand, has also applied to be enjoined as an amicus curiae. In 2013, they applied, they were unsuccessful. Then there's an interesting scenario that's unfolding, Joe. We understand that Charles Kanjama, a lawyer, is also seeking to be enjoined as a friend of the court. And I say interesting because he's also the chairman of the Nairobi Law Society of Kenya. So you have the Law Society of Kenya seeking to join as a friend of the court, but also the chair of one of the chapters of the Law Society of Kenya seeking to be enjoined. Again, Joe, all of these applications, the parties in the petition can respond to them by midday tomorrow. Joe.
Wow, quite a number of applications there, Sophia. Let's talk a little bit about the NASA one, the so-called interlocutory application. I'm sure you'll explain that, but this idea that they want to scrutinize what the IEBC has submitted, I was of the impression that when IEBC or whichever party submits, there are always copies that go to the other parties. So what exactly is this that they are saying they want to scrutinize in what the IEBC submitted?
Well, so there are 54,000 documents that have been submitted, and we understand they were able to access the same 54,000 copies in terms of documents that were submitted by the IEBC. We understand they were given the Form 34s A, B, as well as C, the voters register. But what perhaps is one of the key applications they're seeking to really get permission to, Joe, is to audit the servers. Remember earlier on there was that issue of hacking, interference with the systems, with the transmission of results, result. So they want to be able to look into that and just also perhaps counter-check that what they received and what the IEBC submitted is tallying, or if it's not, what are the issues arising? Because James Orengo, who was here today, talked about having a bombshell of a petition saying that they have discovered glaring anomalies. And he even went further to say that in his years of practice, he has never come across this kind of fraudulent and malicious work being put in place to tamper with an election. So we'll wait to see what leads it is they're pursuing with asking for this extra information, Joe.
Quite interesting developments there. But Sophia, there is the whole amicus question and all these other numerous applications that you have talked about. When do we get to know who has got his way and who hasn't?
All right, so Joe, as I said, the respondents and the petitioners can respond to these applications, or whether for the interested parties or the amicus, saying they have no issues with these parties being involved, or they object to the same. So they do so by tomorrow midday. Then it's expected after that the judges will retreat to deliberate on the various applications. So tomorrow, Joe, during the pre-trial conference, the judges could very well rule on this. But we understand if they're unable to do so for one reason or the other, the latest then they will be delivering a ruling on who will be enjoined and who will be amicus curiae, if at all, will be Sunday morning. So either tomorrow during the pre-trial conference or Sunday morning, Joe.
And finally, there's the question of Charles Kanjama. You mentioned that he also wants to be amicus curiae in this whole case. Is he trying to do this as the chair of the LSK branch in Nairobi, or is he doing this in a different capacity? Do we know that?
We don't know that yet. I tried to get in touch with him, even spoke to some of his colleagues at the Law Society of Kenya. Some were shocked, in fact, Joe, that he was seeking to be enjoined, noting that the LSK was already seeking to be amicus curiae. So some of the officials, the top officials at the LSK, expressing shock that he was going it alone. And so it's unclear at this point whether he is applying to be amicus curiae in an individual personal capacity or as chair of the Law Society of Kenya, Nairobi chapter.
Thank you very much, Sophia Wanuna, joining us from the Supreme Court. And I want to speak to my colleague Duncan Haemba, if I may, because he has been trying to track down the man who is the center of the attention right now. Duncan, I understand that you laid some ambush at the CJ's home. What did you find there?
Yes, good evening, Joe. And as an amicus to this program, the Supreme Petition, I want to submit that, yes, it was an ambush to the Chief Justice, and he never actually expected us. Remember that he's a man that we've been trying to trail the whole